Hi, Ekene.
Hello. How
How
are
are
you?
you?
I'm good.
Very
I'm
well.
good.
I'm
Wow.
very well, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, yeah. So, where are you in Nigeria?
I'm in Lagos. I'm in
Okay,
Lagos. I
okay.
live in
Yeah,
Park.
it was my former city.
Okay,
Yeah,
before you left us.
yes, yes. I left Lagos and you came back, you know?
Yes, I think I lived most of my childhood outside of Nigeria.
Okay.
Um,
When
but
did you come
as
back?
it I moved back in 2004. And then
Oh,
I spent,
okay.
yeah, so I spent most of my childhood outside, and I'm now spending most of my adult life in
Yeah,
Nigeria.
it's
So that's been
interesting.
so that's been nice.
I was still in Nigeria when you came back because
Yeah.
I left in okay, I spent a lot of time in '06, but within Africa I was
Mhm.
on a Africa wide sub-Sahara Africa wide project with my bank.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then when I came back, I now left for the UK the next year. You know,
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Like I said, when we were chatting the other time, that any platform that is about sort of putting out positive messages about Africa, shifting our narrative, I'm always 100% in support of.
But
I think we need more stories about us
we
by
do,
us.
we do. Okay, let's start. Let's start. So
Okay.
just tell my audience about you and what you guys do.
Gosh, where do I start? So my name is Nnenna Onyewuchi, and I am currently co-founder and chief growth officer for Halo and Financial Services. Halo is a financial services platform. We enable communities, and a community for us is any group of people more than five, right? So from five to
Yeah. Okay.
50,000, to manage their financial relationships better, right? So if you are a professional association, right? You have to collect dues. Members have financial relationships. We can
Yeah.
help you create a closed system that allows you to help your members reach their financial goals.
Okay.
For us, really, we want to put more people on the path to like financial independence. And part of that is helping people understand how to manage their money better. I think when it comes to personal finance, everybody, especially when things are tight, everybody has lots of things they want to do with their money, but
Yeah.
most people don't learn about money young, right? And so a lot of people don't understand. I said people don't speak money, right? They don't
Yeah.
understand how to manage their money. They don't know what to save, what to invest, or even if they want to invest, what is going to be good for short term versus long term. And it's
Yeah.
interesting for me because I'm not a finance person, and so it's been really educational for me, just even learning, right? And it's changed even my approach
Mm.
to money and managing my own money.
Okay.
So yeah, so really want to help more Nigerians reach their financial independence, whatever that means to them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I I I don't normally do this, but I think I
Mm-hmm.
want to start doing this more. See, my guests to tell my audience a little bit about their own life, how they got here. Okay. How
Yes.
did Nnenna become the chief growth officer of
Gosh.
a, yeah, I mean, see, because my goal is not only to spread the good news about Africa,
Mm-hmm.
but most importantly for me, it is to share the knowledge of people done who have done something or are doing something to inspire and encourage more people to do the same. So,
Right.
see, I'm sure people, maybe young ladies in Nigeria will be saying,
Mm-hmm.
look at her, fine lady. How did she get
Oh,
here? Okay.
gosh. Well, it certainly wasn't a straight line.
Yes,
So
it's never a straight line.
it was never a straight line. And and what I will say is that, I a lot of times when you look back on your career, right, you can see the plan. I
Yeah.
did not have a plan. So I'm not one of those people that was like super
Ooh.
intentional. No, right? Like much of this is luck and happenstance. But my mother would always tell me that luck is when preparation meets the opportunity,
Yeah.
right? Um, So I started my career in New York. I started my career in advertising. My initial plan was to go to law school. That's, because, I come from a fairly traditional, fairly conservative Nigerian family, right? And so
Yeah.
your lawyers, your doctors, you have a profession, right?
Yes.
You have a real job.
No, that's life. Normally,
right.
Before the last century, people do exactly what their parents do. Yeah. So
and
that's
so,
life.
And, and my older siblings are, lawyers and professors, and, that's,
yeah.
And, and then it became clear that I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be a lawyer. And to be fair, I really didn't, I had been thinking about this for so long. I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I thought, I've sort of always liked sort of writing and creativity. And I thought, I want to work in publishing, which is hilarious when I think about it now, because, magazines aren't a thing anymore. So I'm going to go and work for a magazine.
Yeah.
And so I was going around and I was interviewing. And while I was interviewing, I was temping. And my first temp job was in the marketing department of the jewelry division of Avon. And it was a revelation. I don't think that I had even really understood marketing as a job or a thing, right? I was one of those people, I would see the ads, but I never really thought, oh, there's actually a whole business, right?
Yeah.
that creates
a process to doing this. Yes.
Doing this. It wasn't even something that I had thought about. And the thing about Avon that was really interesting for me is, Avon, it's a mail order business primarily, at least it was then. And they were some of the smartest marketers I know, because they had to be able to predict when the fashion from, the runways would make it to middle America, right? In jewelry. And so there was just so much data and so much insight and so much work that went into it.
Yeah.
And so that was my first real exposure to marketing. And then the headhunter that I was working with said, there's this job, I know you're not thinking about advertising, but there's this job that I think you would be great for. And I went and I interviewed at McCann Erickson. And my first interview was everything they tell you not to do in an interview. I had no research, I had no idea, right? That was when I still wore my big afro. I was like, let them just meet me the first day. Let there not be any stories. I went my massive afro and I got there and they were like, so, what do you want to work? I said, I don't know what people do here. So they told me I should come. And so it's one of those things where I feel like, which is why I always say that, you can't discount luck, right? Because literally it was not a great interview, right? But, I had a good education, I was personal, I was clearly competent. And so even though I didn't check off all I've done the research kind of thing, the HR lady, I think also she just kind of thought I was hilarious. And so she's like, I think that the group would like you, right? And it was more, I think it was a personality fit that she saw.
Yeah.
And then I went, the VP of the group, who was the wildest interview I've ever had. I think I was in her office for an hour.
See, that's why you got it.
Right? And my second interview was this raucous conversation, and we did not discuss work one time.
Yeah.
And she was just like, Margie's gonna love you, right? And then I went to go interview. So they kept I kept kind of getting second interviews. And to be honest, I really still didn't understand what they did, right? But I was meeting these great, and these were all in the HR person, the VP, they were all women, which was also very, so I had really enjoyed this process. But there was a job I think it was with the publisher of GQ that I really wanted. And so that was what I was focusing on, but they kept calling me back and I just kept going because that's what you do at 24 or whatever. And then I met the woman that I would eventually work for. She's a woman named Marjorie Altschuler. And I fell in love with Margie. And I always say, I didn't go to work in advertising. I didn't go to work for McCann. I went to go work for Margie. The minute that I met her, I was like, this is somebody who has things to teach me. And, and we had, and we walked in, she took my CV, she turned it down, and she said, what is it about advertising that appeals to you? I said, it's mind control on a mass scale. What is more power than that? That somebody that I will never meet will do something because I do. That's power, right?
Oh.
Which either makes me like a sociopath or a really good marketer, either way. But and Margie was like, by the time I left the interview, she's like, if you want the job, it's yours. And so really the beginning of my career was, in many ways, it was luck, right? And in many ways, I
disagree. It's not luck.
No, I know. And the reason I say it is because I found a group of women and I'm very conscious of how lucky I was that that's where my career really started, was with a group of women who looked at, this young African American girl and said, there is something there, right? They were willing to groom me, to mentor me. Margie took me everywhere. They took me to rooms where like I had really no business being, right? They created like opportunities for me to have exposure. And the 2 years that I worked with them, especially Margie, she really helped me build profile within the agency. She was a sponsor before I understood what the concept of a sponsor was. And then, but the job was in business development, which in a big agency, so just running a race every day, and it's exhausting. And after 2 years, I was like, I love you guys, but I cannot like work at this pace. And so my idea was I was going to go do the same thing at a smaller agency. And Margie said to me, if what you want is a different kind of pace, then don't go do the same thing somewhere else.
Yeah.
Instead of leaving the agency, is there another department, right, within the agency that you think you would like to try? Because then I'll see if somebody else within the business will make you an offer. When you work in business development, it's a great way to learn the industry, right? Because you get to see campaigns come together very quickly, and you get to see, right, the roles of all the different units. And the unit was called strategic planning then. And it was run in those days by two of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, Nat Puccio and Suresh Nair. And I was just in awe of them. Like, they are two of my favorite brains. And I was
rock stars.
They really are. And I said, the only other place that I can think of is strategy, because I think like Nat and Suresh are rock stars, and like that's what I want to do. And she said, well, she'll talk to them, and they very kindly offered me a home, and so I became a strategist, and I worked on all the things that junior strategists work on. And then I had a planning partner, Kevin, who is now a big deal at McCann, actually. And we were sort of like, McCann wasn't like the cool agency. It was like a little bit of like, a traditional shop at the time. And we're like, we want to work on like cool stuff, because like, you're like 26 or whatever, right? You want to be working on the cool brands, but they're not coming to McCann. And so we were like, we should like build a practice group. And I think also that kind of audacity, right, comes when you're young. Like, what do you know? And so we like wrote a proposal and we pitched it, and they said, okay, sure. And then we had to like figure out what to do, right? And so, and I think that, when I tell this story, I always say that, I want to be that kind of boss, because it could very easily have been like, these kids have no idea what they're doing. Of course, we're not going to do it. Go away. But they said, yes, absolutely. Here is a budget. Come back to us with an idea. When we came up with the idea, they supported it. They funded us. They invited clients to it, and they were really supportive. Like, the agency was really supportive of this idea of building like a small agency with an agency, and that allowed us to do lots of different things. We got to pioneer some sort of styles of research that have become quite common now, but back then was like, doing ethnographic research was kind of a new thing in advertising. And so that was really, for me, the proving ground, right? That you can do things differently.
Yeah.
That if you are brave, right, that things can happen. And so then I decided it was, I sort of had come to the end of one 5-year plan. I was thinking about what to do next, and I had always in the back of my mind assumed that I would move back to Nigeria. It was home. My mother was here, and then my mother unfortunately passed away.
So sorry about that.
But before she died, she and I had sort of discussed my coming, and so I came home because I told her that I would.
Yeah.
And also because I think, it's one thing to sit and I think, look, people should live wherever they want, and everybody should choose the struggle that makes sense for them. And I'm not one of those people, like, if you're not in Nigeria, like, you don't believe, but I also feel like if you sit somewhere else and you talk about the problems, that's one thing, but also it is something to come and attempt to be a part of the solution and contribute in your own way. And so I came home to see, right, how I could contribute. And the first couple of years, I bounced around a little bit, because I also wasn't willing to settle, right? I wanted to find a role that made sense to me, that was fulfilling, that I thought I could add to. You spend a lot of time at work, especially like in your early 30s, and I wanted to work somewhere where I wanted to be. And then, as luck will have it, a friend of mine was working at an agency. It was ZK Advertising then. And they didn't have a strategist, and they were doing a pitch. They were pitching FCMB, I remember. And so I just, he said, will you come and help us with this pitch? And I was sort of transitioning from a job at High TV. So I said, sure, I have a little bit of time. And then after the pitch, they offered me a job, right? They're like, we don't have a strategist. You seem great. So I joined ZK as their director of strategy. And I was running a strategy for Celtel across Africa, and then, helping build the agency. The agency was also quite new. And, sort of so that was 2007, 2011, we lost the Celtel account, which is our biggest account. We lost like 70% of our income in one day. It was like the hardest day of my life. I went home and I just cried, right? And then my then boss said to me, let's do this, right? And I will always say that I was never planning to start a business. I'm as anyone in my family will tell you, Nnenna does not like stress. Nnenna is least likely to like disturb herself, right? But Calico was like, we talk all the time about what we would do if it was our agency. Here's our chance to do it, right? Do this thing with me. And so the MD, myself, and the person who was then our director of ops, right, decided we were going to start our own agency. And that's we started the Yellow Brick Road in 2010. We signed the official paperwork, but in 2011, right, the agency was live. And and then we just started. And it's interesting, right? Because ZK had been a really kind of a big agency, because Celtel at the time was the biggest accounts in Nigeria. And we went from being the agency with the biggest accounts to the agency with no accounts in like a day. And that kind of a fall is heartbreaking. And to be honest, it's humiliating, right? And even though we didn't lose the account through anything that we did, there was a global realignment. But it's like, right? Like you're in an industry, these people were now up here now, right?
Not yet.
If you're opening a door, we'll come and pitch to help you advertise. And the early years were really tough. I won't lie. Like, it was really tough. And I'm so, so grateful for my business partners, because I cannot imagine having done that alone. And just having two other people who were in this with you, who had a shared vision, and who were just really ready to sit down and do the work. And over the last 10 years, we've built an institution that I'm really proud of, right? And I'm really proud of what we've done with YBR. But also I've been doing this work now for 20 something years, right? And so last year, I think, lockdown was really useful in some ways, because it forced me, right? It narrowed my life. And I spent a lot of my time working, because also now the world is in crisis. You've got to keep this business afloat. You have to make sure that you're able to pay salaries, right? And I realized that I wasn't as passionate about the work as I used to be. And I thought that was a disservice to myself, but also to the agency, right? And I think since about 2015, I had also really begun to think about succession planning, because I really wanted YBR to continue after me. And I recognize that you have to be intentional, right? You have to be intentional. You have to signal to the organization that this chair will become available. So I used to talk all the time, right? About when I go, and not because I was planning to leave imminently, but I wanted people to understand that wasn't going to be one of those people who was going to die in my chair, right? This was a lifetime appointment. And then in Q4 of last year, I hired my replacement. Which is not a common thing in Nigeria. As people were like, are you mad? What do you mean you're leaving your business? After you spent all this time building, you not just go. But I retained my ownership. But I said, look, one, the agency needs new blood, new ideas, energy, right? I started this at 36. I'm now 48. It's not the same thing. But I also wanted a new challenge. I wanted to stretch my brain in different ways. And I really, honestly, my plan was kind of to semi-retire. I was going to do some consulting, my partner and I have been talking about buying a farm, right? I was like, oh, we'll buy a farm. I'll be living out there. I'll work, maybe 6 months out of the year, project work. And so this was what I had in my mind, what I was going to do. And then I was having drinks with a friend of mine, and I was saying to him, this is what I've done, and I'm just sort of thinking what I want to do next, and just consulting. And he has a venture fund, venture studio, Constant Ventures. And I was like, so, do any of your investees need advisory work? And he's like, yeah, we have this financial services platform called Halo. We haven't really kind of thought through our brand. Maybe you can come and help us think through sort of like the kind of go-to-market strategy. And so I started just, consulting for Halo. I think it was like 10 hours a week, right? It was like not a real thing. And then that was where the conversation started. And he said to me, don't you want to come and be co-founder of this thing? And I was like, no, I've left one business. I'm like, I'm not ready to go across another one. What you realize? I'm retiring. But he just kept saying it, right? And he just every like couple of weeks, he'd be like, don't you want to come and be co-founder? And then he was like, okay, help me find a CEO. And so I recommended a good friend of mine for the CEO role. And so he met her, he liked her, they got talking. And then he was like, okay, but you can't now bring her and abandon her here, right? So now you've got to join as co-founder. And so, yeah, to be honest, the way they roped me in, I'm still not quite clear because it was not my plan. But yeah, in January, I was like, clearly the universe, right, is telling me that this is a thing. And this is how I'm going to pay for the farm, right? And I told myself I wanted a new challenge, right?
Have one.
I've never done technology. I have no financial services. Like I know nothing about financial services. But I know people and I know what people need. And I understand that you can build anything. So it's better to build what is useful to people than just to build something and then try and find a way to make it useful. And I think that's what I bring, right? I'm not a finance person. I'm not a tech person. I'm a people person. And that's, what my co-founder and our investors say that, I understand personal finance in an intuitive way, right? Because I think about, how do I think about money? How do people use money? And that's how you build, as opposed to what can we build and then how can we sell it to people?
Wow.
And it's been an adventure, the thing what I'm learning about tech. And I think it's actually true about any kind of thing that you're starting. Even when I think about YBR, often the thing that you think you're building is not the thing that you're building.
Yes. See,
and the thing that you build is not the thing you take to market.
Nnenna, let me just jump in here. Mm-hmm. See, your story, the story you just told me and my audience is totally fascinating, right? See, this is the thing. Life is not one straight road, okay? No. There are curves, ups and downs. But if anyone is lucky on that journey to find someone or some people who are willing to say, yeah, this person is not doing things the right way, doesn't know much, but he or she is fun. Let me just grab her, and take her on the ride. That's what you found, okay? You found that those kind of people who mentored you and led you on the journey, and you finally found your own path. See, and hey, I'm hoping that you also grab some other people and take them on that journey. It's exciting, and this is what I think some of us will do for other younger people in our communities. So tell me, what is the role of, give us more details of the role, your role as the Chief Growth Officer of Hello.
So it's literally what it sounds like. My job is to figure out how we can grow, right? How
Okay.
do we scale? Whether that is around product development. So basically, we have a vision as a business, and my role is to ensure that we're driving towards and achieving that vision. So whether that is product development and innovation, whether that's around customer acquisition and revenue growth, whether that is around sort of strategic partnerships, and marketing, right? So really, my role is to help our business grow, and
Yeah.
we grow by adding customers. We grow by innovating products that get customers to spend more money with us. We grow by building the partnerships that allow us to build out a richer ecosystem and a richer offering. And it's about ensuring that as we are achieving things, we continue to keep an eye right on today, but also thinking about where we want to take this business, right? And my co-founder and I'm really lucky because she's really a strong operational. She's like the serious person. She's like the real person. Here's the person that does the work.
Yeah, you're the cool one. You're the cool one.
I'm the one that speaks English. That's my own. But right, we have a shared vision, and so part of my job is to make sure that as an organization we understand the vision, that we evolve the vision as our business evolves, as the market evolves, and that we have the underpinning that we need to kind of deliver the promises that we're making to the customers.
Okay, so tell me, what kind of promises are you making to your customers?
I think the biggest promise that we make, at Halo, we say, when your money's right, everything just works better, and we'll help you get your money right. And that's it, right? And so whether that is about helping you meet all of the different financial obligations and dreams that you have, right? Because people have short-term things. I need to pay rent. I've got to do this. I've got to get insurance, right? I've got midterm things and long-term goals. And I've got to be able to continue to build towards all of them at the same time, right? You can't sacrifice your long-term goals in favor of your short all the time. Otherwise, you'll never get there. Sometimes that means people need credit. Sometimes that means people need opportunities to grow their money. Sometimes that means people need access to things that will help them build stability. For instance, one of the things that we are thinking through is there's a lot of young people who are gigging, right? They're freelancing, right? Everybody's looking for the job that will bring the Forex payments, right? But those jobs don't come with some of the benefits that a regular full-time job, right? You don't get health insurance, you don't get a pension. And so that can create some insecurity. And so through partnerships with other companies, insurance and on the pension side, we're bringing, right? So for people who are gigging and are saving with us and investing with us, we can also give them access to a benefits package at a really affordable price so that it builds some security and stability for them.
Okay.
We're working with small businesses to, when you're a large institution, banks will come and they'll offer you treasury services. So, when you run a business, right, there's a part of your money that you save and keep and grow, and that creates, right, money that's there. It's a cushion, and it can make your business more sustainable. It makes your business more resilient. But a lot of small businesses don't have those cash reserves because no one's teaching them how to do it. And so we can help, right? We can help because we see your business. We can help you build up cash reserves. We can help you invest as a business. So really for us, and because we're fairly new, right, we continue to innovate. And as we talk to more customers and sign more people on and we see what people's needs are, we're continuing to build out products. But at the end of the day, whether you're a large community, whether you're a large community of 100,000 people, or you're a small group of friends of 5, we want to help you get your money right? Whatever that means, and however you need to do it so that you can meet, right, your obligations and feel free. I think a lot of people are trapped by their money because they just don't know how to use it effectively, right? They don't know how to get the best out of it. And so that's really what we want to do at Halo, is help people get the best out of their money so that that's everything
great.
Works for them.
That's great. That's great. See, I will tell you from my own personal experiences. I wonder why the most important things that we should have learned from school is never taught, we all go to school and graduate to find jobs or to start businesses, which are very few people, okay, to make money. Yet, no one ever told us how to actually make money, keep money, use money. It's ridiculous. Okay, so you go to school, you come back, come out, go and start working to make money, yet you just waste it. I mean, now I think, why is that? Something so crucial that it should have been one of the lessons from age of 12. You should have a class about money, all through secondary school, all through university, yet nothing like that. Even people who study finance, people who study economics, people who work in banking like I did, don't know anything about money. Why?
That is a question that's probably above my pay grade. I think you have to look at the history of formal education, right?
Okay.
And what the goal of formal education has been. And I think, at least in sort of the modern era, sort of industrial, post-industrial era, education was really about creating workers, right?
Yeah.
Right. We are educating people who are going to work in the production centers of our society, whether they are going to be in an actual factory or in an office or doing whatever, right? Education is not designed to create innovators or independent people or free thinkers, because you can't have too many of those in society. Society needs, right? So in order to function, like, there needs to be a certain level of the mass in the middle needs to not be too crazy, so they need to be able to follow, and we need order. And I think that what's happened is that the world has shifted further and faster than the understanding of what we now need to be successful in it, right? Because 30, 40 years ago, you didn't really need to know that much. You came, right? You got a job, your job gave you a pension, right? You worked for a couple of years, your bank would give you a loan, you would pay a mortgage over 30. There was a structure, and it worked for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And there were not that many options of what you could do. So, right, it was easy. I think as the world has just moved so much, there's a proliferation of ways of living. There's really no one way of doing anything anymore. And I don't think that our educational system anywhere in the world really has caught up. I mean, I always laugh about the school of TikTok, because it's all these practical things, right? Like how to change a tire, how to do your taxes. Right? But you don't learn it. I remember, and I went to good schools. I did not, I went to, my parents invested heavily in my education. And I remember when I got my first paycheck, I just think to myself, this is not what they told me I was going to get. because even though I knew what taxes were, right? I had no practical understanding of what it meant for me.
Yeah.
And so I had that first sticker shock of, what do you mean the government is taking 30% of my money? What for? But when I think back to that now, I'm like, how can somebody who's college educated, right? And intelligent and capable, and who knew that taxes were a thing, but didn't really understand the application of it in my life, right? Because they don't teach it to you. And I think that because before, right, people just trusted the government to do what needed to do. And I think that also there were fewer people, right, and fewer options. And so the world was simpler. And so the things that people needed to know are much simpler. The world is much more sophisticated, much more complex. And I think that, and what you're finding is that because formal education is not providing these skills, people are going to look for this information elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
I think for whatever the good or bad of the internet, it has provided an opportunity for people to get these skills. I mean, we joke about the school of TikTok all the time, but people are learning real practical skills, right?
Yeah.
How to do things.
A lot. Yeah.
How to do things that make sense for your life. And I think that you're seeing now just individuals are beginning to supplement formal education because people do recognize that it's not teaching you life skills. It can teach you how, I think an education will teach you how to think, right? You learn how to communicate, you learn how to problem solve, but there's some practical skills that you need for life that I think that people are finding outside of formal education.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true. Thank you. So you have done so many interesting things in your career, okay? But I would assume, based on your desire to do other things outside your corporate work, that you might have one or two things you do to contribute to your community. So do you?
Well, actually, there's one thing that yes. So I guess my biggest gift back is that I teach. I sort of feel like at this stage in my career, the most useful thing I can do is give the benefit of my experience, right? Everything that I know somebody taught me.
Yeah.
Also, like, do the same for others. There's so I teach and I speak, and if there's an organization that wants training or someone wants to speak about something, I'm always up for that. There's an advertising school in here in Lagos called Otu Academy that I've been teaching there for over a decade now. Actually.
Really? Wow.
The founder is an old colleague of mine. We used to work together way back when I was at TBWA, and he basically started this thing, like this free thing, out of his garage.
Hey,
and he called me up one day.
I would like to talk to him. Yeah.
No, he's a great guy. I'll hook you up with him. He's an amazing person. Such a great spirit.
What's his name?
Ozone Mbanefu. And he has a Otu Academy. And so he was like literally out of his garage. And he always tells the story that I showed up and I was there for hours the first day. And so I'm whenever they call, I show up.
Very good.
There's a couple of other organizations that I do training for, and then I do actually actively mentor. I try not to have more than 3 mentees at a time. But I feel like I was lucky, right, that there were people that took an interest. I was lucky that there were people who offered me guidance and insight. And so I try as much as possible to do that for other people. You got to put the ladder down as you're climbing. So,
Very good. Very good. I'm happy you do that. Teaching, that was my first job. My parents were teachers. My mom is passed away now, but she was a head teacher. And my father is a great teacher. Now, he's not a lecturer. Fantastic. He never taught in the university, but he taught A-levels for several years. And then he was recruited as the assistant head teacher when NMPC started a primary school for their children. Okay, and he was there. And after about 3 years, some parents said, "Nnenna, this man cannot be teaching. We need him at the corporate area." So he was taken to the NMPC training department. So he retired as the assistant head of the department. Anyway, I love teaching. I love teaching, and it's good. It's good. So you have had this fantastic career. You have told us all about your mentors, the fun, right? So, but I know for a fact that you must have a lot of challenges along the way.
Oh yeah.
So we have talked about the fun parts. Now, let's talk about the challenges. And more importantly, let's talk about how you dealt with them and what you learned from them.
There have been many, many challenges and many failures. And my mother used to say also that that success doesn't teach you anything, but failure is the best.
Exactly.
School, right?
Exactly.
So I think for me, I mean, in my career, I would say the biggest challenge, honestly, was the fact that one day I woke up and my agency had lost 70% of its income through no fault of my own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like something that was really, really, really out of my control. And it was devastating. Right. It was devastating. And it was emotionally, not just from an income perspective, but just emotionally, right? I had invested a lot in this business. I had, this is what I was known for. And just to see it sort of in one day, just like disappear was really, really tough, right? And when things like that happen, it also makes you question like your own decision making. What did I do? Could I have done something differently?
Yeah.
And I think what it taught me, and this is something that I tell everybody, right, is that in the end, it's fine. Even when it all burns down, you're going to be okay.
Okay.
Even when like literally, and it will all burn down more than once, right? But even when it's like catastrophic, you're actually fine. Because what you need is like competence, right?
Yeah.
You need the willingness to work.
Yeah.
You need flexibility and a little bit of luck. And you can take those things and make anything out of them, right?
Thank you.
And so that's what I say, is that it's fine. Like it'll be like, I remember once interviewing someone and they said to me, like, when you start a business, you have this idea in your head that at some point this business will just be like running itself, right?
Yeah.
Like, that never happens. You will lurch from like catastrophe to disaster, and you begin to think that there's something wrong with you, right? Because other people's businesses, it seems like everything is fine. He was like, look, right now, somebody at Google is at their desk crying because something is on fire. It doesn't matter what it looks like on the outside. Yeah. Inside, it's chaotic, right? But you just have to remember that you're actually fine, right? That obviously, if you don't have capacity and you don't have competence, then you have other problems, right?
Yeah.
But if you know what you're doing, it's not going to be easy. It will be hard, but most of us have within us already the things that we need to succeed. You have skill, you have a willingness to work, you have a tenacity, and then you have to be also willing to ask for help. I think for me, the thing that I think is a lie is like this sort of hustle culture, right? I'll sleep when I'm dead. You have to do it on your own. Just keep pushing. I'm like, no. Sit down and cry if you have to. Ask for help. Tell people to bring you cake. Like you need also that self-care is really important. And I think also building the business and when you first start, right, you put everything into it and you're just like working all the time and then you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And so the older I get, so again, doing it a second time, I'm doing it very differently and much more intentionally. And so I've learned to also just take care of myself, even in the midst of chaos. And it can feel sometimes selfish.
No, it's not.
To take that moment. No, but it can, right? Because if things are really hard, right, everything is falling apart. Clients are screaming, all of this, and there's so much work to be done.
Yeah.
But what my challenges have taught me is that if my cup is not full, I can't actually be effective.
Yeah. You cannot share the excess. Yeah.
Yeah. I've learned that really the true path to success is partnership. Other people are what make everything work.
Yes.
So finding the right people.
Yeah. Collaboration, partnership,
partnership. And then just at the end of it, when people ask me what my defining value is, I tell people that it's utility, right? I live to be useful. I feel like no matter what's happening, if you are a useful person, right? If people are like, this is somebody that can add to my life, that can add to my business, that brings something to the table, whatever it is, right? That's how you go through anything. Because when you're struggling, those people are going to help you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have provided utility. And it's not so much quid pro quo, it's just human nature, right? I think, from a challenge perspective, look, I'm a woman, right? And so I walk through the world just already, that's a challenge. I'm a Black woman. That's an additional challenge. I am not the most traditional sort of format for a woman in Nigeria. And so sometimes, right, I have, the fact that I have chosen not to be married, right? So all of those things can be challenging because people will make assumptions about you. I also don't look as old as I am. And so often people mistake me for someone who is much less experienced. And that can lead to, underestimation and other kinds of things. Being a woman in any profession and anywhere in the world can be treacherous, right? Because there's a fine line you have to walk, right?
Yeah.
Because you can be assertive in a way that if you were a man, which is like, oh, he's just like, that's how he is. And a woman, you're like super aggressive or, other words they might use for you. And I think, so the way that I have chosen to kind of deal with that kind of challenge around gender, around, race, around, whatever, is one to base my life in my competence, right? I work really hard to be really good at what I'm doing. So that part is undeniable. There's no discussion about can she do it, does she do it well? The other thing that I've learned to do as I've gotten older is not to let it slide, right? You don't always have to be super confrontational, though sometimes you do, but I've learned to defend myself.
Okay.
Because otherwise people will just
walk all over you, yes.
Trample. And it's a small things, right? Like I am often, if not the only, then one of very few people in rooms, or women rather, in a room. And especially in Nigeria, there is an assumption that the woman is the person who's going to take the notes, whatever the meeting.
Really? Well, see, where I worked in Nigeria, there were lots of women up there. In the bank I worked, there were a lot of women up there. Yeah, maybe even more women there in the place I worked. Okay.
Yes. No.
Let me just give them props. Citibank in Nigeria. While I was there were a lot of women up there. Vice president, assistant vice president, and above. There were a lot of women there. So see, that's maybe happens in other places, but not.
But I think that the thing you have
when I was there.
Okay. So what I'm not saying that.
No, I understand you. I understand you.
No. And what I'm trying, and so I guess the point I want to make here is that even those women who are vice presidents and presidents and MDs and CEOs, when they're in a room full of male CEOs and somebody has to make tea, they will all look at her, even if all of them are CEOs.
Not in Citibank.
I've been in those rooms. And I think part of it is, and this is part of it, right? Okay, so here's a woman telling you her lived experience, and you're like, no.
See, this discussion, I would need to bring you back because for us to talk about this particular thing, okay? Because it's important. See, let me tell you something. I'm an only son. I have two sisters, okay, younger sisters. I have 3 daughters, no son. So I'm very interested in this discussion, okay? I'm very, very interested, all right? I would like to bring you back to discuss all this. Yeah, that's good. All right?
Sure. Right. So, right. But it's the reason I stopped carrying a notebook. Right? Like literally, wow. I take notes on my phone, but I don't carry a notebook because now, now I don't have a notebook. So who's going to take the notes, right? Right. I will, even though the tea thing, but I'm also like, I'm a well brought up people woman. So if there's somebody who's much older than me, I'm not physically able to allow them to make their own tea. Like I hear my mother's voice, like always trying to do it. So sometimes we also, right, we have to fight our own upbringing, and it's our culture, right? And so like I said, not everything is confrontational. Not everything is
that's very good,
right?
Yeah,
It's intentionally meant to demean you. Some of these things are just the way that we are.
yeah.
But I think it can slide right quite quickly because then the assumption that it is actually your job or that women are better.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Or that is what women are supposed to do. And I think that is the place where I've learned to just be like, well, actually, no. There's no such thing as a woman's job. But like, no, like if it's my brain works just as well as yours, right?
Well, yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, and or just in both the businesses that I've started, understanding that there are realities that women face that men don't, right? Like if a man gets married and a woman gets married, both their lives change, but they change in different ways.
Yeah.
Right. A man's career is unlikely to stall after he gets married. A woman's might, right? Because once she gets married, assumptions are made about what her priorities will be, right? They are both working and now they have children. Nobody ever asks a man how he's going to juggle his family and his career.
Because most likely because he's not never going to be pregnant or See,
but pregnancy is 9 months, right? Then there's 30 years of your child.
Nnenna, see, like I said, we need to talk about this on another episode, okay?
Absolutely.
So see, these are very important things, okay? Because we know maybe our society is 50% men or 50% more. There are more women in every society, okay? Maybe up to 55%, okay? And women as well as men have careers now, okay? So we need to discuss these dynamics, okay? And to find a level playing field for everyone. All right. So
absolutely
something we need to discuss. It's very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
See, all you have said so far is very, very good. I was going to ask you to give advice to young people, but the way you have dealt with your challenges and the challenges you have are things that you're basically told my audience, giving them advice on how to do things. That's good. That's good. You have had a great career. Okay, you have been doing some things fantastic. Okay, and you are mentoring people. You are giving back to your society. So I know there's a goal that you want and I want Africa to achieve in the near future. Okay. So what's your vision of Africa in 20 to 30 years time?
In 30 years time, when I'm officially an old lady, I would like to see an Africa that does not define herself against other people and that does not look outwards for validation or instruction or guidance. I would like to see an Africa where we understand that we, right, are the key, right, to the thing that we're looking for, right? That we are our own solution. That other people should not tell us how to be, how to live. That we become the global standard for excellence, right? When people say, global standard, they mean whites. That's not a global standard. An Africa where we understand the power and the influence that we have, and we use it for our own benefit, and that we are the ones that primarily benefit, economically, socially, politically, from what we produce, right? What comes out of the ground, the people. I think one of our greatest export in Africa is people, right? Actual intellectual property. I feel like we should be benefiting from that. I look to an Africa where we have leadership, and I don't just mean political leadership, I mean leadership at all levels.
Yep.
That has a long-term view, right? That sees, right, that you count progress in decades. And so they're thinking, what is a 10-year, 20-year plan? I want to see an Africa where we stop talking and start doing more.
Yeah.
Where we collaborate more, where we understand that, you know, and even with the UBK, like it's in the numbers, right? All of us together are a force. And then we take that power that we have and we turn it to create something for ourselves. And the things that we create, we use them to benefit ourselves. I want in 30 years for this continent to be where everyone in the world looks to for guidance, for inspiration, right? We should be the standard.
Okay, that's great. That is great. Now, let me ask you one additional question. What do we need to do to achieve all this?
I think that we all need to take individual responsibility.
Okay,
right?
I agree.
It is not somebody else's problem. It is our problem.
Okay.
Right. So yes, many, many, many things are wrong, right? I want all of us, each of us, to start thinking, what can I do to begin to work towards a solution? I'm not president. I don't have lots and lots of money, but I can teach, right? I can make sure that in my business, things are done based on merit.
Yeah.
Right. I can make sure that in my business, we respect people, that we take care of our employees. I don't need, right, to become president to better the life of 300, 400, 500 people.
Yeah.
Right. Over the course of the last, 15 years in Nigeria, like hundreds of people have come through. Either I've taught them, they've worked for me, I've helped them. Like I have made an appreciable impact in their lives. That's what we can do. We complain about corruption, but we won't stand in line, right? The government is not the person that's telling you to throw trash in the street, right?
Yeah.
We, each of us, need to take personal responsibility. And if there's something that you're complaining about, don't just articulate the problem, be the solution that you're looking for. Like that, I think, is how we shift.
Very good. Thank you very much, Nnenna. You have
Thank you, Ekene.
Thanks
for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.